There are brands that sell luxury, and then there are brands that define reliability so well that luxury becomes a side effect. Rolex belongs to the second group. Despite how it is perceived today, Rolex was never built around status. It was built around a single technical obsession: accuracy that survives real life. In the early 20th century, wristwatches were not trusted. They were considered fragile, imprecise, and impractical. Serious timekeeping belonged to pocket watches. The wristwatch was a novelty, often decorative and unreliable. Rolex challenged that assumption, not with marketing, with testing. From the beginning, Rolex focused on chronometer certification. At a time when very few wristwatches were tested for precision, Rolex insisted on proving accuracy under controlled conditions. This decision shaped the brand's entire future. Accuracy was not a feature, it was the foundation. Once accuracy was established, Rolex addressed the next enemy of reliability: the environment, dust, moisture, shock. Early wristwatches failed, not because of bad design, but because the world was hostile to delicate mechanics. Rolex responded by engineering protection rather than decoration. The oyster case was not a style choice, it was a solution. A sealed case that protected the movement from water and dust fundamentally changed what a wristwatch could endure. When Rolex demonstrated the oyster by having it worn during long swims, the point was not spectacle, it was proof. A watch that could survive immersion could survive daily life. That philosophy repeated itself again and again. When winding mechanisms caused wear, Rolex developed the perpetual rotor, allowing the watch to wind itself through movement. This reduced stress on components and improved longevity. Each innovation was practical. Each improvement addressed failure modes. Nothing was added for novelty. This is where Rolex diverged from many luxury brands. Rolex does not chase complication for its own sake. It does not compete on visual complexity. Instead, it refines a narrow set of functions until failure becomes rare: time, date, durability. The designs evolve slowly, almost stubbornly. A Rolex from decades ago is instantly recognizable today, not because the brand lacks creativity, but because it values continuity over reinvention. Change is introduced only when it improves reliability. Materials are upgraded, tolerances are tightened, manufacturing becomes more controlled. But the core remains. This consistency is intentional. Rolex assumes its watches will be worn daily. They will be knocked, exposed to water, temperature changes, and neglect. They are not designed for careful owners. They are designed for reality. That assumption shapes everything. Movements are overbuilt, cases are solid. Bracelets are engineered for strength rather than delicacy. Rolex watches are not thin. They are not light. They are not fragile. They are confident. This confidence created trust. Professionals began relying on Rolex watches not because they were expensive, but because they worked. Divers, pilots, explorers, and scientists wore them because failure was unacceptable. Over time, that trust became reputation, and reputation eventually became status. But the order matters. Rolex did not become reliable because it was prestigious. It became prestigious because it was reliable. That distinction explains why Rolex occupies a unique position today. It is one of the few luxury brands that can be recognized instantly without trying to look luxurious. The design does not scream exclusivity. It communicates familiarity. A Rolex looks correct. Not fashionable, not trendy, correct. This correctness is difficult to achieve. It requires restraint. It requires refusing to chase short-term attention. It requires accepting that some people will call you boring. Rolex accepts that, and time has rewarded it. Modern Rolex watches benefit from decades of incremental refinement. The tolerances are tighter, the materials more advanced, the testing more exhaustive. But the philosophy remains unchanged. Build something that survives use, not admiration. This is why Rolex resale values are strong, not because of artificial scarcity alone, but because people trust the product. Trust creates demand that outlives trends. Even those who criticize Rolex often do so from a place of familiarity. The brand is so established that it becomes a reference point. That alone speaks to its impact. Rolex does not need to explain itself. It has spent over a century letting performance do the talking. In a world increasingly driven by novelty, Rolex represents a different idea of progress, one where improvement is quiet, cumulative, and rarely visible from the outside. That kind of progress is easy to miss, but it lasts. And that is why Rolex matters. Not because it is expensive, not because it is exclusive, but because it proves that discipline, applied consistently over time, becomes unmistakable. If you enjoyed this documentary, consider supporting the channel by liking the video, sharing it with someone who appreciates quiet engineering, and subscribing for future stories.